Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host with the biggest nose, JZ Courtside, coming at y'all today on Monday, January 26th. Now, I'm fully expecting not many of you guys to be tuning into today's episode, especially because of the TikTok algorithm being as screwed up as it is. But, and the snow and the ice, you can figure it out which ice I'm talking about. I hope everybody had a great weekend, all things considered. I hope nobody lost power. I hope nobody's that affected by all the snow. And if you are, I hope you got the day off of work or school. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope your NBA teams won over the weekend. We're going to be talking about the entire NBA weekend in a nutshell. Today, we're going to be talking about the winners and the losers. I don't have any other fun segments planned for today because the winners and losers should take us all the way to the end of today's episode. So again, podcast listeners, if you guys are enjoying these shows, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. It helps more than you guys could possibly understand. YouTube chat, TikTok chat, be sure to drop a follow, subscribe, drop a like. It would help more than you guys can believe. And live crew in the Twitch chat. You guys know all y'all got to do is sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's get started. So the last 2 weeks, I started off with the loser of the weekend, and I didn't really like doing that. I'm a positive guy. I'm a half full kind of guy. I don't really like talking about the half empties, right? So I'm going to go back to what I normally do, and we're going to start off with the winners of the weekend, okay? Now, this one isn't just a winner of the weekend, because they are a winner of the weekend. But in my opinion, they're also a winner overall. But I'm not fooled by it, and I hope you guys aren't being fooled by it either. There's a couple winners in here that I could call losers anyways. But I guess since they are technically winning, let's go ahead and start with the Los Angeles Clippers being my first winner of the weekend. Now, obviously, over the weekend, they won. They destroyed the Brooklyn Nets, which isn't that much of an accomplishment. It's the Brooklyn Nets. But they also beat the Los Angeles Lakers on Thursday. So you can push that into the weekend a little bit. Now, what the Clippers are doing is very interesting because the turnaround that they have done is, I didn't see it coming. As you guys know, the Clippers started off horrible. They were like 6-21, I believe. Or no, they were like 6-19, whatever the record may be. They were horrible. They were at the bottom of the Western Conference. They were bad. And pretty much nothing changed except for them waiving Chris Paul. And they were still bad after that. But then they got clicking. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last 19 games, the Los Angeles Clippers are 15-4. 15-4. I gotta say it again. In the last 19 games, after starting 6-21, the Los Angeles Clippers are 15-4. So the turnaround is unbelievable. They're also the first team this season to beat the Pistons twice this year. No other team has done that this year until them, which is another impressive feat. The Los Angeles Clippers are being led, and I mean led right now, by Kawhi Leonard. He's actually playing. And we all know when Kawhi plays, he plays. This guy is averaging basically a 50-40-90 right now. He's averaging 28 points per game, just over 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2.5 steals, 49.8% from the field, so 50%, and 39.7% from 3, so 40%. And he's also shooting 94% from the free throw line. Kawhi Leonard is playing on a whole nother level right now, right? James Harden, when he plays, he's also playing on a whole nother level. Now, the reason why I'm talking about the Clippers being the number one winner of the weekend, it's quite simple. They should not technically be winning. They should not technically be winning. They're not top 10 in offensive rating. They are number 10 in offensive rating. They're not top 10 in defensive rating. And they're not top 10 in net rating. This team is putting up some of the least points in the NBA, averaging 112 points. They are grabbing the second least amount of rebounds. They are averaging the lowest amount of assists in the entire NBA because all they do is ISO ball. They're attempting the least amount of shots from the field, and they're attempting the ninth lowest threes in a game. They're also bad at defense because they're old. So, with all of these stats being mentioned, the Los Angeles Clippers should not be winning. They should not be winning. They're ball hogging, they're ISOing, but their shots are going in. That's why it's fascinating, y'all. And what Kawhi Leonard's doing this year is unbelievable. Like I said, they're 15-4 in their last 19 games, and they're just winning playing ISO ball. They're not spreading the ball. They're not throwing the ball around. They're not getting each other involved. They are just hitting their shots right now, and that's all that's happening. It's that simple. What's the goal in basketball? It's to put it inside the hoop, and that's what they're doing. They're not spreading the ball. They're not like evenly distributing the ball to the rest of their team. They're just ISOing and winning right now. Now, they are a winner of the weekend. This is the first time I've picked them as a true winner of the weekend because it's time I finally acknowledge it, right? People are getting aggravated with me because I'm not talking about the Los Angeles Clippers, right? On top of all of this, their depth is pretty okay. Obviously, they're missing Bradley Beal, but having like Nick Batum still, why the fuck is Nick Batum in? John Collins been playing really, really well this year. His three-point percentage has been banging. Chris Dunn, obviously. Brook Lopez has still got his thing. Jordan Miller's been pretty decent. Kobe Brown's been pretty decent. So, like, they have some pieces on this team, but I got to be honest with everybody. The big question here that was just asked in the Twitch chat, Kai said, I don't think they're sustainable, though. And that's a great point because that's what I was getting onto next. This team is old. Now, I know you guys are thinking, okay, that's fine. They're old. Who cares? No. They're not just old. Go through the entire history of the National Basketball Association. I'm talking since day one of the NBA. This is the oldest team in NBA history. Again, this, by the average age of this basketball team, they are the oldest in NBA history. So do I believe this team is a title contending team? No. Do I believe this team can win a playoff series? No. Because they are, in my opinion, they are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs, like not the play-in. I think they're going to make the actual playoffs. How many games back are they from the 6th seed? Let's see. From the 6th seed, the Los Angeles Clippers are, okay, maybe not. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they will make the play-in. They're not going to make the playoffs. They will make the play-in, and that's where it starts to get interesting. Because the way this team is moving right now, I see them making the playoffs, right? Who are they going to go up against? They're going to go up against the Blazers. They're going to go up against the Warriors. They're going to go up against either the Suns, Lakers, or Timberwolves. I think the only team in that group they can't beat are the Timberwolves. So if they do make the playoffs, I don't see them winning a series there. They're too old. They're going to get ran out of the gym. Their biggest weakness are athletic teams. I know the Clippers beat the Pistons. One of them was on a 6-game road trip for the Pistons. They, what was it? It was during the holidays, and Kawhi Leonard dropped 55 points. And the next game, the Pistons were missing 6 of their best players, their entire starting lineup. So they're the only team to beat the Pistons twice this year, and that's the only athletic team that they've truly dominated this year. So I think that's going to be their biggest issue come the playoff time. It's because the West Coast is like pretty athletic. Now, if you go up against the Warriors or Lakers, you're good. So that's why I say, you know, I'm not a big believer in the Los Angeles Clippers. I had to pick them as winner of the weekend, though, because I think it was time to finally acknowledge them. They're fun. They're fun to watch if you guys like old school hoops. It's basically just ISO ball, my turn, your turn, and it's working right now. I don't know if it'll work long term. I don't think it would, but watching them it's fun. Watching Kawhi Leonard play basketball is very fun. Watching James Harden in 2026 is actually pretty exciting because the last few years, James Harden was not finishing around the hoop. And now he is. It's really weird how that works. It's really, really weird how that works. He was not finishing around the hoop for the last couple of years, and now he is all of a sudden. He's getting back to the hoop and he's finishing. I would like to give a special shout out to Euro. Euro, thanks for following the Twitch stream. I appreciate that very, very much. Hopefully more guys from the TikTok will leave that stream and come through to the Twitch. I appreciate it very much. Let's go ahead. I don't think there's I don't think there's any point in spending that much time on the Los Angeles Clippers, especially because we have a lot of winners of the weekend. Moving up next, I have the Toronto Raptors being my next winner of the weekend. Now, this goes without saying, the Toronto Raptors have won 4 in a row. They beat the Golden State Warriors. They beat the Sacramento Kings. They beat the Portland Trailblazers. And last night, they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's the interesting one. Last night against the Thunder were missing, mind you, they were missing a lot. They were missing Alex Caruso. They're still missing Isaiah Hartenstein. They're missing J-Dub again. They were missing AJ Mitchell, who's been their real step-up product. And that's sort of that's sort of the story of this team. The Oklahoma City Thunder have been one of the most injured teams this season. And I hate that they were missing so many players, but if they weren't, then we probably wouldn't be talking about giving the winner of the weekend to the Toronto Raptors. Lu Dort had his season high last night. He had 19 points, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot 8 for 11, 24 points. So at the end of the day, it just came down to not having enough help. There was too many people missing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I really don't want to discredit the Toronto Raptors because that was a hard-fought win last night. And yeah, they got it done in Oklahoma. The Toronto Raptors right now are playing interesting hoops. They're playing interesting basketball. They are, and it's not like crazy. They are top 10. In fact, they're number 6 in defensive rating this year. They're not in the top 10 for offensive rating, just defense. So they're number 6 right now in defensive rating. And they're playing like pretty interesting as a team. They don't shoot the 3 well. They don't shoot from the free throw line well, but they do everything else at the average of the league. I can show you guys their stats. They do everything average, except for assists. They do move the ball around a lot. So in my unprofessional opinion, I'd say the Toronto Raptors are a good centerpiece away from actually being a nice contender in the Eastern Conference. They did pass the New York Knicks last night with that win as well. They are half a game above the Knicks and 6 games behind the Pistons in the number 1 seed. So they are playing very, very well. But when I say very, very well, I mean they're very, very average. And sometimes all you have to be in the NBA is average. Because if you're average, that means if somebody's having a bad game, you're going to win. So by being average, they are playing pretty well. Now, in my opinion, I see the Domantas Sabonis rumors going around, and I think that's a horrible fit for this Toronto Raptors team because Sabonis does not play defense. And what's working for the Toronto Raptors right now is their defense. They're number 6th rated in defense right now. And I think if you were to go for a Domantas Sabonis, I think say goodbye to your defense. Nobody's playing defense anymore. Scotty Barnes has to play up. Brandon Ingram has to play up. Jamal Shed has to play up. And that's if you don't lose Jamal Shed in a trade. So when you're looking at this team and you add a Domantas Sabonis, your defense will fall off a cliff. So just diving deeper into this team, I really hope Scotty Barnes gets that all-star selection, but I don't think they're going to give it to him. I think they're probably going to give it to Brandon Ingram just because he's averaging the most points per game. But I do want to show love to Scotty Barnes this year. He's been averaging 19.5 points, almost 8.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, almost a steal and a half on a block and a half, shooting 50% from the field, but 31% from deep. So he hasn't quite improved that 3-point percentage. But Scotty has been playing incredible defensively. And I think genuinely, he does have a true chance at winning DPOY. I don't think they're going to give it to him, but he does have a chance. Like, he is playing really, really good defense to where he can at least be in top 5 contention, top 5 conversation as far as DPOY goes. I really, really am enjoying watching Toronto basketball. What I will say, and I've mentioned it throughout this year, is when they're on, they are fun to watch. But when they're off, they are a shit show. Like, some certain teams look horrible when they're not playing well. They don't look like an NBA team. There's a few teams like that in today's NBA. When their half-court offense is not going well, they look horrible. For example, the Pistons, when their half-court offense is shot, you question why they're the first seed. When the Toronto Raptors can't get their half-court offense rolling, they look fucking awful. They look bad. So that's something that would get better if they have a center, if they have an actual playmaker. Jamal Shead has been playmaking very, very well, but that's not who he is as a player. He's definitely a score-first guard. Somebody in the TikTok said, if you're talking all-stars, I think Toronto's going to have 2. That is egregious. That is a horrible take. The Toronto Raptors are not going to get 2 when they're barely going to give the Pistons 2. They're going to get Jalen Duren, but they don't want to, is the thing. The Toronto Raptors by all-star break are either going to be the 3rd or 4th seed. I can't tell you the last 3rd or 4th seed in the Eastern Conference to get 2 all-stars. The Toronto Raptors are going to get 1. They're a medium market team. They're not going to give them 2, especially as a 3rd seed. Now, if you're talking Los Angeles, yes, LeBron and Luka, even though they're only like the 5th or 6th seed in the West, they're going to get 2 all-stars because it's Los Angeles. And it's in Los Angeles. It's at the Intuit Dome. So, of course, they're going to get the biggest stars. They don't want no damn Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. They're just going to give it to Brandon Ingram, I think, unfortunately, even though I want Scotty to get it. So that's why I have the Toronto Raptors as my 2nd winner of the weekend. I'm very, very happy about that. Because this is another team that was horribly underrated going into this year. If my memory serves me correct, they were projected to be the 7th seed in the East. So to see them at 3rd in the East, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. It's so cool to see them 3rd in the East. Like, this is such a fun story. There's a lot of fun stories in the NBA, even though one of them just got ruined. But we'll talk about that later when we talk about losers. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to my 3rd winner of the weekend. Real quick, I want to call Joel Embiid a winner of the weekend. Now, not the entire Philadelphia 76ers as a whole, because they just lost a close game against the New York Knicks, even though they had an awesome comeback, helped a little bit by Tony Brothers being the officiating crew there. But I want to give a small winner of the weekend to Joel Embiid. Guys, he's played more games this season already than he did all last season. Let that sink in real quick. Already, halfway into the season, he has played more games this year than he did last year. That's a huge win. That's a huge win. They've been playing him much better as far as like his timeline. Like, if he doesn't play the second leg of a back-to-back, like if the 76ers play tonight and tomorrow, he won't play tomorrow. I think that's been great. I think that's a great way of bringing him back slowly. On top of that, Joel Embiid over his last 6 games, I got to show you all this. Over his last 6 games, he's averaging 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Like, Joel Embiid is doing that. And that is a sight to see. Now, I'll be honest. As a non-76ers fan, I enjoy watching Joel Embiid when he's not pulling the theatrics that we know Joel Embiid does. I want Joel Embiid to hoop. I want him to be healthy. But when Joel Embiid starts doing those Joel Embiid things that make people hate him, it's sort of painful to watch, right? When he's throwing himself to the ground, when he has no regard at all for his body because he just throws his body everywhere. I do believe the NBA is better when Joel Embiid is good. And I hope he continues to be healthy. I just hope he doesn't continue this whole trend of, how do I say this? Playing for the refs, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Because that's the worst aspect of Joel Embiid. But again, over his last 6 games, he's averaging 30 points per game, and it's been a sight to see. In fact, if you even lower that to 5 games, he's averaging 30. Okay, I guess he's still averaging 31 points per game. So Joel Embiid's still doing his thing. And again, he's played more games this year than he did all last year combined. So I think that's great for Joel Embiid. I think that's great for the city of Philadelphia. I think that's great because it's sort of distracting everybody with Paul George being that expensive of a contract and giving you Tobias Harris numbers. It was okay. It's okay for Paul George to play like Tobias Harris, but when Tobias Harris plays like Tobias Harris, It's a sin. But we're not talking about Paul George and the 76ers. We're talking about Joel Embiid. And we all know right now, I think the way the 76ers are rolling is they don't want Embiid to be the number one. Maxi's the number one. Joel Embiid, when you're able to play, you are our number two. And I think it's awesome that they're doing it that way. I think it's great. I think it's smart. And I think as we move on into Joel Embiid's career, if he can continue playing at this level, or at least close to it, I think that's a great sign for Joel Embiid. Let it be Maxi's team. Let him run the show, and then let Embiid come in and do what he does. I do have to reiterate this again. He has played more games this season, just halfway in, than he did all last year. And that's very, very exciting. Another thing that's really cool is that you would think that Philadelphia, because they're one of the fastest teams in the NBA, you would think that they wouldn't be as fast when Joel Embiid returns, and yet they are still pushing it. He may not be pushing the pace with them, but they are still pushing the pace even when he is in the game. So, I don't want to make y'all forget, but just 2 years ago, this is the same guy that dropped 70 points in a game. When Joel Embiid is healthy, man, it's good for the entire league, as long as he's not against your team and throwing his body all around for the refs. As long as that's not happening, I can root for Joel Embiid. Now, quick, small winners of the weekend. Quick. We're going to go lightning because there's too many winners. Miami Heat won 2 games over the weekend. They won Saturday and Sunday in Utah, in Phoenix. They destroyed Utah by 31, and then they went to Phoenix and also smacked on them as well. Phoenix is without Devin Booker. They're also without Jalen Green again. So it's quite unfortunate, but this is how the season's going to go. Devin Booker is going to be reevaluated in a week, which is great. That's great. He's only going to be reevaluated in a week. So that's good, ladies and gents. Miami Heat are a small winner of the weekend because they beat the Utah Jazz and they beat the Phoenix Suns. Now, I say this all the time about the Miami Heat. I call them a winner one weekend, and if I call them a winner one weekend, it's guaranteed I call them a loser next weekend. So I'm just reminding everybody, 1 week from today, remember, okay? Because it happens like clockwork. Every time I give Miami credit, this is why I should never talk about Miami. Every time I give them credit, they go ahead and make me look like a dumbass 1 week later. Hopefully, this hot streak continues. Unfortunately, it was against 2 bad teams in the NBA, so that's why they are a small, teeny tiny, small winner of the weekend, because they beat a team led by Dylan Brooks. And then they beat a team. Did they even have Lauri Markkanen in this game? No, they sat Lauri Markkanen. Okay, so they beat the Jazz without Lauri Markkanen, but Keontae George only went for 19, so that's good. That's good. Hopefully they can figure out what's working. Hopefully this team can play to their standards. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they make a move. There's 10 days until the deadline. Let's move on to our next small winner of the weekend, the Chicago Bulls. They are on a 4-game win streak, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I could have put this easily into the losers of the weekend because the Chicago Bulls are now above 500. And if you guys know anything about the Chicago Bulls, they're just like the Miami Heat. They're going to be chilling in the play-in together for eternity. Chicago Bulls, 4-game win streak. I'd like to give them a special shout out. Hopefully they can trade Kobe White to a team that needs him. But they won 4 straight. And this is against better teams. They beat the Clippers. They beat, the Nets. They beat the Timberwolves. And they beat the Celtics. So shout out to the Chicago Bulls. These are good wins. That's why I have them a little bit higher in the totem poles, the Miami Heat go. Those wins are a little bit more valuable. Our next winner of the weekend, the New York Knicks. They're back. They won their game over the weekend against the Philadelphia 76ers, even though they choked a 20-point lead in the last 7 minutes of this game. They tried to lose. But they hit some big shots at the end of that game, and they ended up winning. Plus, Karl Anthony Towns, shout out to him for putting that tweet out talking about ice. I think it's great that some NBA players are really bringing light to the situation. So shout out. I'll give a winner of the weekend to Karl Anthony Towns as much as I will to the New York Knicks. Another small winner of the weekend to the Denver Nuggets. I don't want to talk too much about them. They beat 2 non-play-in teams, non-playoff teams. They beat the Wizards and they beat the Bucks. This is all they beat the Bucks without Jokic, without Jamal Murray. I think even without Peyton Watson. Yeah, without Peyton Watson, without Cam Johnson. They're missing their whole starting lineup without Christian Brown. The only guy they had was Aaron Gordon, so they did manage to win that game. They beat the Bucks, they beat the Wizards. And again, I got to give another winner of the weekend. This is more so just like a big shout out to Peyton Watson, my boy. Over his last 10 games, these are all without Jokic. He's averaging 23 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 3 assists over his last 10 games, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. The Nuggets need to figure out what they're going to do with this guy, because if they lose him, they lose their dynasty, because this guy is going to be the answer. This guy is going to be the answer. I said it at the beginning of the year. You guys can look back at all of my old podcasts, but I said the Denver Nuggets were my favorites to win it all. And I know that was sort of a hot take going into this year because everybody had the Oklahoma City Thunder repeating. But I said the Denver Nuggets took the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 games last year, and that was with Aaron Gordon hurt and out, and that was with Michael Porter Jr. with his back injury as well. So I got to repeat this. I think Nikola Jokic getting injured this year was the best thing to happen to this team because it allowed Peyton Watson to develop and show the world what he's capable of, and you get to rest Jokic. This was the best case scenario for the Denver Nuggets. Jokic gets rest when he never gets rest, okay? They're still winning. I didn't expect them to continue winning. I said, without Jokic, they got to try to not fall out into the play-in. And they've done exactly that. They still have a 2.5-game lead over the 4th seed. If they lose Peyton Watson, that will be a generational fumble. This team needs to do whatever they can. Now, here's the issue, and I've talked about it a lot. I've talked about it extensively. If you guys have listened to me at all this year, I said Peyton Watson, if they want to bring him back, they got to go into the second apron. No team is willing to go into the second apron. So what that means is you got to do something about Christian Brown this offseason. You got to make a decision with Aaron Gordon because unfortunately you cannot keep them both. You have to either get rid of Christian Brown or Aaron Gordon. I can promise you, you would win in a trade for Aaron Gordon, but you will lose in a trade for Christian Brown. You would probably have to package a draft pick. You'd probably have to package another good young player, all in order to keep Peyton Watson. But I think that's worth it. If you can convince a team to take on Christian Brown, if you can convince a team to take something, you need to do whatever you can do to keep Peyton Watson, because what this kid is doing is unheard of. 23 points a game. On top of that, he's shooting 54% from 3. 54% from 3 over his last 10 games. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This guy's a monster. They got to do whatever they can. Oh, yeah. Also, I did forget. So that's what I wanted to say about the Denver Nuggets. Major winners of the weekend. They won the games they needed to. Because at the end of the day, chat, you guys got to remember, these are all professional athletes, y'all. No matter if they're a bad team in the NBA, one hot shooting night, and there you go. There you go. And they got it done. They need these wins. They need these wins. So shout out to them. Because if they lost both Washington and Milwaukee, those are 2 winnable games. And that would have knocked them down to the 4th seed. Real quick, Derrick Rose's retirement ceremony. Shout out Derrick Rose. Listen, it's hard for me to root for players that do things off the court. Derrick Rose has some controversy, which I don't support. Also, Derrick Rose aired me in public when I met him. I saw him at Somerset Mall in Metro Detroit. He was walking with his wife, or significant other. I don't know. He was with some white lady. I don't know if he was or she was his wife or something. And I was very discreet. I said, "Yo, D Rose, can I get a quick picture?" Actually, no. I said, "Yo, D Rose," and I said hi. And he just looked at me and just kept walking. And then I was like, "Yo, D Rose," and he's just ignoring me entirely, ignoring me. And then I asked him for a picture after when he just kept ignoring me. So yeah. That on top of the R word news. I don't cheer for Derrick Rose. Good for him. He's got his jersey retired. But yeah, shout out Derrick Rose. Sorry, weird turnaround for me. I apologize for, in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Google it. Google it. What would have been if he didn't get hurt? What would have been? And then a small, tiny winner of the weekend for the Detroit Pistons. I gotta give them a shout out. They lost against the Houston Rockets in one of I think the ugliest game they've played all year. They could not put the ball in the basket. It's clear that what this team needs, and it's shooting. You cannot shoot 20% from the three and expect to win basketball games at this level. It's very clear what the Pistons need. They need 3-point shooting. They need another body for Cade Cunningham. The reason why I picked the Pistons as a winner of the weekend is not because they beat the Kings. It's because Cade Cunningham got his brace off. In case you guys don't know, Cade was playing horrible for, I believe, 4 games in a row because he was injured. He hurt his wrist, and not just his wrist. I'm talking about his shooting hand wrist. Imagine playing basketball with a brace on your wrist. I'm not talking about like a sweatband. I'm talking about a brace that comes off your hand. I can't play basketball if I slept wrong the night before. I can't imagine having a brace on my shooting hand that comes off my hand by half an inch. So last night was Cade's first game without that brace. And Cade looked like Cade again. He had 29 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, plus 18 on the court. And he was 3 for 5 from 3-point land. So that's why the Pistons right now are my winner of the weekend. He shot above 50%, and he shot 3 for 5. And if you guys watched this game, which you probably didn't because it was a Sunday against the Sacramento Kings afternoon game, Cade started the game like 0 for 5. And then he was just like, it's like, okay, right, this is what it's like shooting without a brace. And then he just proceeded to hit almost every single shot for the rest of the game, and he could not miss. It was funny because I was like, oh my God, he sucks without the brace on. And then he was just like, oh, right, I'm Cade Cunningham and I don't have a brace on and I can play this game. They need a shooter. They need Klay Thompson. I wish Malik Monk just stayed in Detroit. Little fun fact, the entire front office for the Sacramento Kings were in Detroit during this game. The entire front office for the Kings were in Detroit. I do want to talk about Jaden Ivey real quick. I know we're talking about winners of the weekend, but Jaden Ivey was the only minus player on the court. He was -3. This is a trend with Jaden Ivey. Listen, Jaden Ivey's 3-point shooting has been incredible this year. I'm talking incredible, like knockdown shooter this year, ever since he came back from injury, right? But what I do have to say is every time Jaden Ivey touches the ball and decides not to shoot a 3, it's going to lead to a turnover. I'm pretty confident he had a couple this game. He had 4 turnovers. How do you manage 4? Okay. Every time, I want you guys to pay attention if your team ever versus Jaden Ivey and the Pistons. He puts the ball on the floor, drives to the hoop, and just picks up the ball and looks lost. He does not know what to do anymore. Ever since his injury, he has 0 confidence when he puts the ball on the floor. Every time he drives to the hoop, right? He picks up the ball and starts doing this and then loses the ball. That's been the case for Jaden Ivey all season. I still want him gone. I love Jaden, but unfortunately, he's just a knockdown shooter, and that's okay, but that's not who you were supposed to be. And that's the issue. That's the issue at hand. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our losers of the weekend. TikTok, if you guys are enjoying this stream, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. We'd love to have you guys. The link is in my bio, TikTok. It's Jay-Z Uncut, same name on the Twitch. The link is also in my bio, guys. I'd love to see y'all come through to the Twitch stream. Again, that's the same name on Twitch. The link is in my bio, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and talk about the losers. Now, this is only the second time I've been able this year to name this team a loser of the weekend, but I'm taking advantage of it every time I can. The Oklahoma City Thunder are a loser, my first loser of the weekend. Like I said, I'm not able to talk about this often, so I'm going to take advantage of it when I can. The Oklahoma City Thunder, actually, I have a very fun stat for you guys. This is the first time the Oklahoma City Thunder have lost 2 home games in a row since 2023. Let that sink in for a second as I take a sip of my drink. This is the first time they've lost back-to-back games at home since 2023. So you bet your ass I'm going to call them the loser of the weekend for the statistic. It's the first ever time. That's how dominant this team has been for so long. First ever time in 3 years they've lost 2 straight at home. I got to give it up to them. They've been the second most injured team this year. Second. So for everybody overreacting to this team having 10 losses, breathe, relax. They are the second most injured team analytically this year. They're missing their number 2 guy in J-Dub. They're missing their 6-man, Alex Caruso. They're missing their center, Isaiah Hartenstein. And they're missing their surprise player who's been unbelievable, AJ Mitchell. So this team and what they've endured this year, the fact that they're still 37-10 is absolutely incredible. It shows a testament of time of how good this team truly is on offense and defense. They're still the number 1 team in defensive rating, regardless of all of these injuries. The closest team to them is the Detroit Pistons. The Oklahoma City Thunder are still the overwhelmingly favorites to win the championship this year. They're not my favorites to win it all this year. You guys already know who my favorites are. But betting against them would be stupid. I'll just say that much. If you bet against this team to not win the championship, that would be dumb. I wouldn't put money against them because this is undisputed the best team in the NBA. It's just whether or not they can stay healthy leading up into the playoffs. That's what matters. I don't know when they're getting J-Dub back. I have no idea. I've told you guys plenty of times, the only team I could see them beating them is the Denver Nuggets. They're the team that took them to 7 games last year. And they would have won if they had Aaron Gordon and if Michael Porter Jr. wasn't hurt. I genuinely believe that the only team that can stop them and get in their way is the Denver Nuggets. And even them, I'm not putting money on them. But I do like their chances over anybody. Okay? So, I got to give them loser of the weekend. I do want to say something very, very fun. I want to say something very fun. This is not a jab at OKC whatsoever. The Detroit Pistons only have 1 less loss than them this year. They only have 1 less loss. The Pistons have 11 losses. The Oklahoma City Thunder have 10. Now, as a longtime suffering fan of the Detroit Pistons, that is unbelievable to think about. Just think about that real quick. That is crazy. This Detroit Pistons squad, I forgot to give a winner of the weekend to JB Bickerstaff as well for the Detroit Pistons. He is going to be the head coach for one of the All-Star teams this year. That's awesome. That's awesome. He's gonna be one of the head coaches for the All-Star game. This is the same team that won 14 games total 2 years ago. This is the same team that won 17 games 3 years ago. Like, the fact that the Thunder only have 1 less loss than the Pistons right now, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. So, again, I do have to give the Thunder a loser of the weekend, but I'm only doing that because I'm able to do that. All right? So, they lost to the Pacers. They got their number somehow. I don't know. And then they lost to the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors played a really great game. I watched the end of that, and Emmanuel quickly hit some big shots. Some big shots. TikTok, if you guys are enjoying the stream, same name on Twitch. If you guys want to talk with me, if you guys want to talk with my community, if you guys want to talk with real ball knowers, be sure to swing on into the Twitch app. It's the same name, Jay-Z Uncut. Also, if you guys don't want to type in my name on Twitch, just click my profile picture and then click the link in my bio. I'd love for you guys to come on through. My next loser of the weekend, guys, this is serious. This is not to over-exaggerate. This is serious now. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Where's my Timberwolves fans in here? I have a feeling that people whose teams are the losers of the weekend, they're just intentionally not showing up right now. The Minnesota Timberwolves, ladies and gents, have lost 4 in a row. And, sorry, 5 in a row. My apologies. They've lost 5 in a row. 5 in a row. They have lost to the Rockets, to the Spurs, to the Jazz, to the Bulls, and to the Golden State Warriors, who don't have Jimmy Butler. Like, this is not to overreact. This is genuinely insane. In case you guys don't know, they postponed one of the games in Minnesota for the tragic murder that took place in the streets of Minnesota. They postponed that game. And then they played this game at home against Golden State. Now, I talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's so weird. I talked about them 2 weeks on the nose. 2 weeks ago on the nose. I said, and I quote, the Timberwolves have figured it out. They're going to go on the same run as they did last year when they finished the season 18-2. They're locked in. And then last Monday, they were on a 2-game losing streak, and I gave them a loser of the weekend just because they lost both their games over the weekend. I didn't think that I'd be calling them the loser of the weekend on back-to-back weekends. Talk about turnaround, ladies and gentlemen. They need to figure it out. They need to figure it out. They look lost. On the court right now, they look lost. They do not look like they know what they're doing. Can I just show you guys these bench stats? I need you guys to really look. This is how it's been in all the losses this year. And this is why I don't have the Timberwolves going the distance this year. And that's why I see them blowing it up next summer. And when I say blowing it up, I mean they're going to trade some key pieces to their team. Not Anthony Edwards, but they're going to trade some key pieces. They're going to move around. Let me just show you guys this real quick. Their bench, they had 7, 10, 13 points off their bench. 13 points off their bench, guys. Naz Reid has been bad this year. And I'm not saying like offensively, but defensively, Naz Reid has not been talked about this year whatsoever. When I think he needs to be discussed, they just gave this guy a max extension. And you're telling me he's playing this poorly all year? On the defensive end, this guy does not play defense. He fouls you or he doesn't touch you. That's the definition of what Naz Reid is doing right now off the bench. Now, I've been regurgitating the same take over and over and over again. But this team needs a point guard. And the only way they can get a point guard is if they trade some key guys. Now, it depends what you want. If you want like a Marcus Sasser from the Pistons, that ain't going to bode well in the playoffs. If you want a Dennis Jenkins from the Pistons, again, never played in the playoffs. I don't think that's going to bode well for them, which means that leaves them only max contract guards. So then I'm going to bring up 2 max contract guards and I'm going to go over why they don't work. One guy in the TikTok said they need a Ja. I'll tell you why they want to stay as far as away possible from Ja. Ja Morant will make this team significantly worse from day one. Ja Morant is shooting 23% from 3. 21% from 3. On top of that, he's shooting 41% from the field. Ja Morant is a traffic cone on defense. He's arguably a worse defender than Jalen Brunson out in New York. So people want to tell me that Ja is throwing right now. No, he's just not a good shooter. He's not a good shooter. He's not intentionally throwing his shots because last year he was a 30% shooter from deep. The year before, 27%. The year before that, 30%. Now, someone told me in the TikTok as well. This is why I'm not reading the TikTok anymore. So if you guys want to talk to me, come to the Twitch stream, Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. This guy said, you trade Conley, Gobert, and DiVincenzo. Okay, let's go over that real quick. You trade Rudy Gobert. I'm going to start with Rudy Gobert. Your entire team is dead. You lose. You are not making the playoffs. You are missing the play-in. If you trade Rudy Gobert, this team is done. Okay? Let me explain. Rudy Gobert has the highest plus-minus swing when he's on or off the court. When Rudy... This guy's... Hey, your name is Anime Kukamaka in the TikTok. Guys, that's why I'm telling you to leave the TikTok and come to the Twitch stream. When Rudy Gobert is on the court, they are beating teams by 15 points. When Rudy Gobert is off the court, they are losing by 15 points to every team they play. That is the most underrated stat all season long. When he's off the court, they're getting outscored by 15 points. When he's on the court, they're outscoring. This probably changed over this 5-game win streak by 1 or 2 points. They are winning by 15 points when he's on the court. They are losing by 15 when he's off the court. And then I want to respond to this anime guy in the TikTok as well. He said trade Donte DiVincenzo. Donte DiVincenzo, before these 5 games, was leading in plus minus off the bench in the entire NBA. This is why I do not talk to people who do not watch basketball. He had a plus 90 a week ago. He had a plus 90 when 2026 started. So, TikTok chat, get away from people like that who's been silent ever since I called him out, and come through to the Twitch stream. Same name on Twitch, Jay-Z Uncut. Come to the Twitch stream. The link is in my bio TikTok. Donte DiVincenzo is not a point guard. And that's what they're trying to play him as. And it's not working now. It's not working. Dante's a spot up, dunker spot, backdoor to the bucket, and that's it. The Minnesota Timberwolves have to figure themselves out. Right now, they look lost when they're on the court. They look lost. They look lost. I have one of my Minnesota fans in the chat right now. I love that. They look lost right now. They do not look good. They don't know what they're doing. And that's not going to bode well, because here's the thing. They made it to the 3rd seed. They were the 3rd seed 2 weeks ago, and now they have plummeted to the 7th seed. That is not to be taken lightly either, ladies and gentlemen, because now they are 4 games out of the 3rd seed. If they want home court, they are only 1.5 games from the 4th seed. 1.5. That's it. They're only 1.5 games outside the 4 seed, so they can get back to it. But right now, they got to figure it out. I'm not going to overreact and say this team is dead, but they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out. And they got time. They got plenty of time. Like I said, last year, they finished the season 18-2. We'll see what can happen. We'll see what can happen. I want them to go out and get Coby White. I feel like that would truly help this team. I don't think you need to give a whole lot for him either. Maybe a little bit of draft capital and a young player. I don't know. Like who would Toronto fans, or sorry, who would Minnesota fans be willing to give up for that? You'd probably have to give up like I don't know if they take Bones Highland, but they'd probably want Rob Dillingham and a pick. That's probably what they'd want. So if they can go out and get themselves, honestly, instead of Coby White, I would prefer Trey Jones, but that's just me. That's just me. I would prefer Trey, because at least you're getting more defense, bro. What this team was prolific at is defense. They're still 4th. They're still 4th in defense. So if they want more defense and playmaking, I think Trey Jones would be fire. If they want more offensive scoring, I don't think they need it. They're 6th, you know? All right, guys, let's move on to basically my last big loser of the weekend. And that's the Orlando Magic. That is the Orlando Magic. I don't know where my Magic fans are at today. I think they intentionally dodged today's episode because they knew I'd be talking about them. The Orlando Magic have lost 3 games in a row. They've lost to the Memphis Grizzlies. They lost to the Charlotte Hornets, and they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, Franz Wagner played in Europe. I guess he just wanted to play in front of the German crowd. Because now he's not playing. And okay, so one of my Magic fans are in the Twitch chat. I talked about this team plenty, so I don't need to bury them any more than I have this season. The Orlando Magic right now have come back to earth. In particular, Anthony Black. Against Cleveland, Anthony Black had 16 points. He shot 6 for 12. But the game before that against the Charlotte Hornets, the supposed most improved player of the year, shot 1 for 11 against the Charlotte Hornets, who don't play defense. The Charlotte Hornets play one side of the basketball court, and they managed to force Anthony Black into a 1 of 11 shooting. Here's the thing about the Orlando Magic. Just being blunt. the fact that I look at the top 10 defensive rating and don't see the Orlando Magic is scary. The fact that I don't see them in the top 10 offensive rating, that's fine. But not seeing them in the top 10 for defensive rating, that's the concerning part. They're not good at defense anymore, and their offense has never been good. So when you look at this team, you really question if they have no half-court offense, what can they do in the playoffs? I'll tell you. They're going to get beat in the first round because it's rare when you find a team that is shooting worse than the Detroit Pistons. But they are shooting worse than the Detroit Pistons. Like, I watch every single second of every Pistons game, and I try to watch every single minute of all Magic games. When the Magic are on, bro, they are a fun team to watch. But when they are cold, they don't look like, honestly, they don't look like a college basketball team, let alone a professional basketball team. That's not a joke. That's not a joke at all, I promise. They look bad. And when I see Paolo Banchero taking 6 to 10 three-pointers in a game, I just vomit. I vomit everywhere, all over myself. Yeah, the Orlando Magic have not looked good. I'm not going to hit the panic button. Well, okay, the panic button hit when they traded everything for Bane. I've voiced my opinions on this team a lot, and I don't want to do it anymore. Here, I'm going to say this for the last time for a long time, and I'm not going to repeat myself again, okay? I'll talk about this when we get closer to the playoffs or when we're in the playoffs. I never want to say this again, okay? So please, Magic fans, I need you to hear me and hear me good. You traded 4 first-round picks and a swap, so just say 5 picks, for Desmond Bane. Getting Desmond Bane wasn't a bad thing, but you traded for him too soon. Had you waited into this summer, he probably would have costed a pick and a young player. By you trading for Desmond Bane, you guys are now going to have the second highest payroll next year, meaning the only contracts you're able to add next year are veteran minimums. Otherwise, you go into the second apron. So, here's the last time I'm going to say this until the playoffs start. The Orlando Magic rushed their timeline. Their window was wide open. And now it's damn near shut. And yet their 2 best players are still under the ages of 24 years old. You rushed your timeline. You traded everything for Desmond Bane. And Desmond Bane is a last piece to a championship team. Now, if you looked at this team and you looked up and down the roster, does this look like a championship team? No. You're going to have to move. You're going to have to scam a team in taking Jalen Suggs. And here's the issue now. Next season, they are in win now mode. They have to win it all next year. Otherwise, they failed their timeline and they fucked their entire franchise. When they don't win the championship next year, they will have to either trade Franz Wagner or Paolo Banchero because of their fuck up in trading for Desmond Bane. They have to cover it up. They have to fix it. Unfortunate for them is teams aren't willing to trade multiple first-round picks anymore. So you traded 5 picks for Desmond Bane when you're only probably going to get a return of 2 for a Franz Wagner or for a Paolo Banchero. TikTok chat said, bro, you're just talking. Can you shut the fuck up? Nobody thinks the Magic are going to win anything. That's the issue, Mr. TikTok viewer. Their salaries next year are going to be the second highest team salary in the entire NBA. So statistically and financially speaking, they have to win next year. And when they don't, they have to trade Franz or Paolo because of them fucking up and trading everything for Desmond Bane 1 season too soon. That is what happens. That is what happens. So, unfortunately, this is the issue with gambling your entire team 1 summer too soon. You learn very quickly that sometimes you need to develop your talent previous to winning it all. So I apologize to everybody, but the Orlando Magic officially rushed their timeline. And what you see is what you're going to get, because next summer, they don't have money. They don't have the money. So unless they can get lucky and get Tim Hardaway Jr. on a veteran minimum contract, and he can play like this year's Tim Hardaway Jr. and not last year's Tim Hardaway Jr., this team is not going anywhere. I hate when young teams swing for a home run when all you need was a double. Hell, this team only needed a single. All they needed was to win one playoff series this year, and everyone would have been so happy. Magic fans, I'm talking to y'all. When you traded for Desmond Bane, all joy and happiness went out the window, because now all you're doing is anxiously watching your team, when this year you should have been being excited to watch your team. Sort of like how I am with the Pistons this year. I had no expectations. All I wanted this year from the Pistons was to win a playoff series. And yet what they're doing now, they are surpassed my expectations. So now I can just sit back and enjoy the fact that the Pistons only have one less loss than the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions Oklahoma City Thunder. The Orlando Magic should have been enjoying this year. Instead, they rushed their process and shut their window closed. They have 1 year. They have 1 year to win it all. Otherwise, buy Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner. You have to make a decision. And for my final small loser of the weekend, I moved them last because the news broke out, and that's actually pretty good. Devin Booker is going to be reevaluated in 1 week. I thought he was going to be out for way longer. I thought we all thought he was going to be out for way longer. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 week. We'll see what they say. It doesn't sound like it was bad. So shout out my Suns fans. I was really depressed for y'all. But you guys are going to keep dropping if Dillon Brooks is going to be your number one for the rest of this year. So hopefully you can get Devin Booker back. Hopefully you can get Jalen Green back. I hope this tells everybody that Devin Booker is an all-star. If he's not an all-star, that's absolutely atrocious, and the voting needs to be canceled. Devin Booker is an all-star. He needs to be an all-star. And hopefully he can get back healthy. Hopefully he can get back and healthy. And that's going to do for today's episode. Twitch chat, stick around. TikTok, YouTube, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, please do me a huge favor. Drop a follow on whatever platform you're watching on. I do this Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. On top of that, podcast listeners, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. On top of all of that, YouTube, TikTok chat, do me a ginormous favor. Leave whatever stream you're watching and come to the Twitch stream. It's the same name, Jay-Z Uncut. So Cena, Day, Giannis, Smooth, Darian, come through to the Twitch stream. It's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. We're still live over here, and that's where the stream is predominant over. We're live here Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern for the podcast. But we start the streams off at 8:30 a.m. Eastern just to talk with my community and bond with each other and get to know each other more before the podcast actually starts. So that's what you're missing out by not being on the Twitch stream. We only talk hoops when we're on TikTok and YouTube. So be sure to swing on into the Twitch. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. TikTok, again, the link is in my bio. I hope to see everybody come through to the Twitch. My man Carter, shout out to you for leaving the TikTok and coming through to the Twitch stream. I love talking hoops. I love enjoying hoops. So if you guys do enjoy talking basketball and you want more people to talk to about it, be sure to come into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. Link in my bio. I got nothing left to say, y'all, except for thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Oh, and guys, please be safe. From the ice that's falling from the sky and from the ice that are out on the streets, be safe. Be careful. Appreciate everybody for watching and listening. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. I'll see y'all TikTok, YouTube, podcast listeners. We are still live on Twitch, everybody. Have a blessed rest of your day.